happy to have you here. It's a very nice turnout. We're here to talk about building local content and communities. As many of you know, there's been a lot of interesting discussions happening here about a lot of the upcoming technologies and trends. However, the content is still a very important aspect of the online community. It's usually the one thing that brings people towards a company or a venture. We have two very interesting companies and founders of these two companies that have built a very successful and very popular content-driven, community-driven businesses. We have Mr. Omar Koudsi, who's the co-founder and CEO of Jeeran, and we have Mr. JC Butler, who's the also co-founder and CEO of Dubizzle. I'll just give you a quick. Give you a quick agenda of how we're going to approach this. We'll just we'll give each of Omar and JC a chance to basically introduce themselves and their company. Each of them will have about a 15-minute presentation to talk about their topic, and then we'll open up the floor for some question and answer period. All right. So Omar, let's start with you. Maybe you can just give us a quick introduction about yourself, a little bit about Jeeran. Just a brief discussion, a brief introduction.
Sure. I'm with Jeeran. Jeeran basically started in 2000.
The microphone is not working.
I think is this working now? Yes. Okay. Technology. Jeeran has went through a lot of phases. I like this session because it's talking about local, which is our latest push. We've done a lot of different things. Our latest push is trying to really be local in different parts of the world. So Jeeran is focusing on places and cities and reviews. This is our latest angle. So I want to talk about why we did that and what does it mean to us, and why everybody else should also consider taking this hyper-local angle to their business.
Okay, so we have JC, who's the CEO of Dubizzle. Maybe you can just give us a quick introduction about yourself.
So my name is JC Butler. I'm the co-founder of Dubizzle.com. Some of you probably know Dubizzle, some of you may not. We're a local classified site across the Middle East and North Africa. We started about 4 years ago, 6 years ago in the UAE, and now we're across 14 countries and 22 cities across the region. We're in 3 languages, English, Arabic, and French. And we're inherently a local community site. Every city where we are, we're focused on that community. So I think this is the perfect topic for us to speak about.
Okay, so I think JC, you're going first. Give us your presentation.
Thank you, everybody. I was going to actually, the first part of my presentation was to introduce myself as JC Butler, but I guess I already did that. So yeah, as I mentioned, we're a local classified site across the Middle East and North Africa. We're in 3 languages. All of our content is in all 3 languages. And a big part of what we do, or pretty much all of what we do, is community content. So just about last week, I was on a radio show in Dubai. They asked me to come on there and talk about what it was I was going to be speaking about at ArabNet. And so I thought I was going to be pretty prepared. I know quite a bit about Dubizzle. Obviously, I've worked there since me and Sim founded it. But the first question that he asked me when I got on the show was, why community content? Why is community content such a big deal? And actually, I guess I had never really thought about that. Community content is just what we are, and obviously, as a local classified site, it's our content is community content. It's relevant to the community. So I kind of sounded like a bumbling fool trying to throw out buzzwords to justify why community content is important. So coming away from that, I decided that I should probably be able to answer that question before I stood up here and gave a presentation at ArabNet. So thinking about it, there's a few things that I noticed that made community content very, very important. Why it's so talked about right now. Why it's so important. And number one, quite obviously, is that it's relevant. It's relevant to whatever community that it serves. And if it's relevant, that means that there's demand for it. Secondly, it's original. So there's lots of general content on the web or everywhere. AP throws out a story and it gets regurgitated across the web in many different forms. Whereas community content oftentimes is original. Your site, if you're a community site, you may be the only one with that story. If someone's selling a car in Beirut, we may be the only one with that story, the Range Rover for sale or whatever it might be. So just to kind of illustrate this example, gossip, for example. Gossip's a big business in the news and on the web and whatnot. I always make fun of my wife for looking at gossip sites and things such as that, but the truth is we all kind of partake in that. So here's an example of kind of general content gossip. We're talking about the Charlie Sheen Violent Torpedo of Truth tour, which some of you may have followed on the gossip sites. And there's a lot of, this is covered everywhere, thousands of different places. Everyone's got the same content. But then over here we have the Facebook newsfeed, which essentially is kind of a community gossip site. It's basically a community gossip, your friends are your community. And here we are running the story of my friend Ben Walton, who's also the lead developer at Dubizzle, skydiving over the Palm. Pretty interesting story. No one else is running that story except for Facebook. So, one could argue that Facebook is the largest gossip site on the web. So that's the power of community right there. So the opportunities in community content are, if you combine those two, you have demand and you have original content. You may be the only one with that content. Not only that, but there's lots of, there's constantly innovation happening in technology, obviously, mobile, APIs with the social web and things such as this. So there's always new ways to kind of slice and dice new communities. You may be a part of a community you don't even know. I may be part of a community of web entrepreneurs who are basketball fans in the Middle East, and I never knew I was part of that community, but now with new technology we can figure that out. So there's new ways of slicing and dicing communities, there's new ways of delivering content to them, and there's new forms of content. So there's this constant opportunity to define new spaces and for new spaces to exist when it comes to community content. So it's a very exciting space to be in. So there you have it. That's why community content. So I guess the next question is, what makes a community site? And that's, I guess, quite obviously a fairly easy question to answer, and that's to have community relevant content. But then you have to ask, well, how do you define community? And so I think, the very broad definition of community, or what I broadly define community as, is a group of people that share a common thread. So I've looked at kind of three main categories here, and there's probably more, but these are kind of the three main ones that we focus on. And you have geography, which is obviously something that Dubizzle's involved in. So Beirut, the people that live in Beirut are a community of people that live in the same place. Interests, a community of people that are interested in something, or even like relationships. So, Facebook is a community site. It's a community of your social relationships. And just to illustrate a few examples here, as we said, Facebook is a community site. LinkedIn is a community site around the interest of professionals in doing business and whatnot. And Dubizzle is a community site around particular geographies, so around a city with the interest of trading, buying and selling, offering jobs, these sort of things. So the next thing that I imagine, since we're in a workshop here, the next thing that we all want to think about is, what makes a community site popular? How do you make a community site popular? So I think there's kind of three main, elements to a community site that I would say. And I would say the more that you have of these, the more likelihood you will have of kind of being stronger with your audience and becoming more popular. There's obviously community content. That's one of the ones that you actually need to have. You have to have community content to be a community site. User-generated content is not something that you necessarily need to have, but if you're engaging enough to get your users to actually spend the time to create content on your site and build your site, and that content's about the community, then that's even stronger. And then finally is user-marketed content, and that's something that's really happened quite a lot more in the last few years with the development of the social web, and it really, becoming social media and all this sort of stuff being at the forefront and much stronger and much more prevalent in all of our lives. So I'm going to use kind of a similar graph here to show what site, where these things overlap, and what sites are using these different things. So again, we'll use Facebook, highly successful site obviously, to illustrate how they're doing all three and how they've become so popular. So community content, obviously it's community content. It's about all the content on Facebook is about your people in your social network. And then it's generated by these very same people. They're giving you status updates, they're interacting with other people, they're basically living their lives online, and you get to watch it and you get to keep up to date with it. And finally, it's user marketed. All of us, when we joined Facebook, or most of us, when we joined Facebook, we were given the opportunity to go through our contacts, our email contacts, whatnot, and to invite everybody to Facebook, or to find the people that were already there. So, it's been marketed hugely through its users, and that's the network effect that everybody talks about. In the same vein, Dubizzle does the same thing. We're community content. All of our content is generated by our users, and our users then, they're out there trying to sell their stuff. They're trying to sell it on Dubizzle. They're highly motivated to go market it throughout their own networks, and so they actually are marketing. It's the content on our site, but it's really their content. So. That's been it's been a huge part of our success. It's really been spread through word of mouth. And then there's other very interesting models such as Groupon, which actually is community content and user marketed content, but it's not user generated content. Groupon is in fact a community site. In every community where it exists, it has deals specific to that community, very relevant to that community. It's not generated by the community, they generate these deals. But then, the brilliance behind it was this group buying, the whole tipping point type of thing. So everybody that gets a deal wants everybody else to do it so that they can actually get that amazing deal. So very, very brilliant business model there, and a good example of user marketing. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is sort of how we did it and how we're doing it. And kind of the recipe, more or less, for anybody, anybody here who's interested in making a successful community site or a community app, or anything such as that. So this is pretty general, and this is something that is really important, I think, whether you're on the web or whether you're in any sort of business. And it's probably pretty cliche to say this, but it's so important because so many people don't quite get it right. And the idea just has to be right. The idea needs to fulfill a need. And you really have to ask yourself, do you need it? So in the case of Dubizzle, Sim Watley, the other co-founder, and I were both in Dubai, and we were jobless, trying to find jobs, setting up our life there. We needed something like Dubizzle. And we were pretty sure that other people needed it too. And so it really was born out of necessity. And we had seen in other parts of the world that it had been, sites such as Dubizzle had become very popular. So we were able to say, yes, we certainly need it, and we were able to ask our friends, and yes, they certainly needed it. So that's very important. The idea needs to really fulfill a need. Secondly, it's the competition. Why are you better? In our case, we were better than paper classifieds. That was pretty simple. You may not have any competition if you're defining a new space, which is fantastic. If you can fulfill a need and at the same time you're defining a new space, then that's great. But this is one that a lot of people get wrong as well, because people not only need to use your site, but they need to actually switch from another site perhaps. So you really have to be honest to yourself about what your competitive advantages are. When Facebook came out, we saw lots of social networks start up. They thought they were jumping on this bandwagon, but they didn't really offer anything different. Very few survived. LinkedIn defined a new space. So competition is kind of the next key thing. Then, this is something that's very important. I imagine this is something that Omar is really going to expand on. Is the content. This is the classic chicken or the egg kind of problem. When you're trying to develop user-generated content, you can't just throw something up there and people are going to start filling in the gaps. That very rarely happens. So it takes a lot of hard work, and you really have to ask yourself, why would someone come and add add content to my site. So, for example, we recently launched in Beirut. We recently launched all throughout the Middle East and North Africa. And you have to ask yourself, when you launch and you have zeros in every section, there's no content on your site the first day you launch. Who's going to come and take the time to try and sell their car on a site that looks like no one's there? The answer is nobody. No one's going to do that. Why would you do that? Time investment is as much a barrier to entry as price or anything like that. So it takes, the motivation needs to be there. People want to sell things, but they also have to be convinced that yours is worth the time and it's going to work. So it takes a lot of hard work, it takes a lot of persistence, and it takes brute force. You need to be on the ground. We have people on the ground in every market that we're in, and we're talking to people, we're signing people up, showing them how to do it, showing them how to list, doing it for them, and that's really, how it has to go. Building these personal relationships, face-to-face relationships. Oftentimes in the web, we forget that that's important, but actually it's very important. I think that that's a very key part of being a local site, is actually being there, being able to speak to people, being able to get inside the community and shake hands and build personal relationships. So that has to be an element of whatever you do. Even sites like Foursquare, right, where people are motivated to post content because they can be the mayor of a certain venue, or they can earn these social rewards and things like that. When Foursquare started, this currency of badges and social rewards was a worthless currency. If no one's on that, if no one believes in this currency, it has no value. So even when they started, they had, there was this brute force phase of getting people into it, getting people to use it, until enough people believed in that site to actually give value to this currency of badges and social rewards. So that's important. That needs to be part of your plan. And finally, how do you get your users to market your site for you? This takes a little kind of clever brilliance, perhaps, depending on what your site is. For Dubizzle, it was fairly easy. The only reason people are putting content on the site is because they have a very real objective of selling an item or filling a job or whatever it may be. So that motivation was clear for us. For other sites, such as Groupon, I'll come back to that. The motivation of what is going to make people want to share great deals with other people, they had to really fabricate that in a way where they had to create a system where people were highly motivated to do that. So if you can take your idea and then figure out, okay, how can I really motivate my users to go and spread the word and really market the content that's on the site, you're golden. You can, and I think that it's not that difficult to do. A lot of people can do it. It's just about taking the time to really figure it out and put yourself in the user's shoes. No one's going to do it to do you a favor. It has to do something for them. And finally, I would say motivation is one part of it. The second part of it is tools. So Dubizzle, I'll use the Dubizzle example, and then I'll use Facebook as an example. The motivation is there, as I explained, but a few years ago, we added in the ability, whenever you place an ad, we added the ability to put it on your Facebook, very easily put it on your Facebook, very easily tweet it out to everybody you know and all that sort of stuff. Before that, we had maybe a few tweets a month, maybe a few shares on Facebook a month. People want to share their stuff, maybe they didn't think about it, maybe they couldn't really be bothered to copy the link and then go open up their Facebook and whatnot and do all of that. The second we put the tools up there, very simple. We had thousands upon thousands of tweets and Facebook shares a week. So the tools are very, very important. And so if you look at Facebook, for example, go back to that previous example where when you signed up for Facebook, you entered in your email address and all your contacts came up. Pretty much, I know I did, and I know pretty much most people that I know did. Sent that out and got their whole got all their social network onto Facebook. Now, had they not had that tool there, certainly you would have wanted all those people. The motivation would have still been there, but maybe 10% of us would have actually told people about it over email. went and done that on our own. And of those 10%, maybe we would have chosen our 10 best friends, but certainly not, 100, 200 people. So the tools are just as important as the motivation. And yeah, aside from that, there you go. That's kind of the recipe. You've got the idea, you need to fulfill a need, you need to be better than your competition and significantly better, and different enough that maybe you're even defining a new space a bit. The content, you have to get on the ground, be face to face, get people to really motivate people to add to your site, and then you need to figure out what the motivation is for them to spread the word and give them the tools to do that. One final note, anybody who hasn't visited our stand already, we're in celebration of us expanding to all the new local communities throughout the Middle East. We're taking photographs of people, sticking them on the map where you're from, and then we donate $3 to the Red Crescent or Red Cross of your country. I think there's about 1,000 people at ArabNet. Our goal is to donate $3,000, so anybody who hasn't done that, we'd love for you to come by. So thank you very much, and my Twitter is @JCButler. I'll be posting a link to this.
Thanks everyone for coming. Today we'd like to discuss, like I just said earlier, why Jeeran went local, and why you should actually really consider this as an opportunity for yourself as well. So early last year, we started asking ourselves, Jeeran was growing, we were doing well, we still were the biggest blogging network in the Arab world. Things were going well, but we saw some signs that started to form as a trend. Our top bloggers started to blog less. People were blogging about Haifa more than anything else. JC talked about content and how you have to frame it properly. I think we started to see that not taking shape. So we said Jeeran is big, but how relevant is it really to a lot of people? Being Arab is not really an advantage anymore as a company to just launch and say, hey, we're Arab, we have an Arabic interface, and if you email support, then reply in Arabic. That's not an excuse anymore. Maybe it was cool it was an advantage to do that in 2000. And Jeeran, we have blogging, then we have videos, and we have photos. Do we really want to position ourselves to compete with all these big players, Silicon Valley with all these engineers? So we said, no, there is something better. What we figured out is we want to go hyper local. The new model was places. We said we want to take all the places in a city online and enable people to review them. So we came up with Jeeran Places. You have to remember, this was before Facebook Places, this was before Google Places, this was before Google wanted to buy Yelp, and so on. As all of these started to happen, we got verified. So when we went local in the cities, here are some of the reasons we said this is the right thing to do. We always hear this, the 5-to-1 ratio in the Arab world. We are 5% of the population, but we generate only 1% of the content. Well, what does that mean? It means that there's not a lot of Arabic content online. We thought if we go and bring all these places online, whether it's this shawarma place across the corner with its address and what people think of it online, this is really contributing to content. There's a lot of need for localized user-generated content. The fact that you talk about, like JC was saying, gossip sites, that it's not really special. But if you talk about, the new traffic that's happening on a street, this is something unique and it's not going to be replicated. So this approach allowed us to tap into local user-generated content. Now, the online advertising model in the Arab world is pretty much segmented into the big agencies in Dubai. But a lot of the people who want to engage online, and we've seen this, we've seen like small shops advertise on Facebook. So we thought this model is also going to allow us to tap into the small shop who probably wants to spend like $20 a month or $200 a year as opposed to 20,000 with the big agencies. So this is one of the things that help do that is instead of just this really big site, no, it's this city site that you can list your places and such. New advertising products, text ads. When people search on a local site, text ads are very useful. And then one of the things that really pushed us is we wanted to use it. JC talked about him wanting to buy and sell stuff when he moved into Dubai. Well, this is something we wanted to do. We wanted to be able to know what's happening in our city in terms of what are the best restaurants, what are the best mechanics, what are the best doctors, what good supermarkets are in my neighborhood. This is one of the things we wanted to have. So it allowed us to solve real problems. Advertisers wanted. A few years back, the advertisers said, okay, you're an Arab site, we like you, we have to advertise on Arab sites. But advertisers started asking more and more, why should we, okay, we have YouTube, we have Google, we have Facebook, we have all these Arabic sites, and then we have these really local sites in each city. But what are you? Are you like pan-Arab, or what is that? What's, it was really a distraction for us trying to sell these campaigns. So going local allowed us to be a local website in all of these countries. When you are Jeeran Riyadh, you are very local to Riyadh. There's no excuse for any advertiser to say, oh, I don't want to advertise in a site that is pan-Arab. Jeeran Riyadh is very local. New revenue sources. When you build a product that revolves around offline world, you definitely open up room for new revenues that just go beyond advertising, like premium subscriptions, mobile services. The point is, you're not subjected to what most people make money from in this region other than e-commerce is online advertisers. The other thing is, and I see a lot of startups trying to do that. We are the Facebook of this, or we are the YouTube of that, or, well, you can't say that anymore. YouTube of the Arab world is YouTube. Facebook of the Arab world is Facebook. Google of the Arab world is Google. So what we're trying to do, going really local, an American or a European company using an algorithm and being 10,000 miles away cannot be done. This is a very hyper-local approach that needs to have a lot of on-the-ground efforts for it to succeed. So this is really one of the also major reasons that encourages us to really go local. Battery is dying as we speak. Okay, so this is what we did about it. We launched, we started with Amman. Of course, it was our pilot project, and it was really hard. Like, a lot of people were asking us, why did you do this? You're blogging, everything was working, why did you stop it? But we really believe that this is really the future. We can't just assume that what we're doing is right. We wanted to offer a real product, so we started with Amman, and then we moved on to Saudi Arabia, and Abu Dhabi is about to be launched very soon. So this is some of our stats. So we have 57,000 places and 4,000 reviews. I would say like at least half of these places never had a website online. So we've created a presence for all of these places online, and it really does make a difference to Google when they're trying to find destinations for all these search keywords to come and find these pages on Jeeran. So 4,000 opinions. This is real, genuine, local content that never existed. And it's not talking about how Haifa Wahbi looked last night or whatever, which is a lot of the things that you see happening. One of the things we're doing right now is giving stickers to places to hang and say that they are part of the Jeeran network. So we just started this a couple of days ago, and we've had 3 places so far who wanted to have stickers on their shops. So I want to talk about an example. The guy that you just saw, we're going to talk on, is Ahmed from Friendscape, a place in Jordan that I never knew existed. He emailed us. He was really frustrated. He wanted to sue us, literally, on email saying that we published his wrong phone number, and how did we get his, we had no right publishing his info, and it was really a mess, and we made him miss business, and it was just a really big deal for this guy. So he threatened to get sued. So being sued is relevant, right? You are affecting people's lives in a way. So we like that. But we had a talk, with this guy, and we said, look, this is what we're doing, and this is how you can change your phone number. Sorry, we did this mistake, and he became, the customer number 3 of the sticker. So we sticker. We consider this as part of, being on the ground. Anyone here from Amman? Does anyone know French cake? No. I don't know, actually. Please make this guy happy and write a few reviews. Right? He really cares. He really cares about his customers. So. Okay, so how do you go about doing that? How do you go local? Use this since the clicker died. Okay. Going local means solving a problem in the offline world. Our instincts as geeks is to begin coding, right? This is the first thing we do. I have an idea, let me start coding, and then the whole business starts. But that's the easy way. You have to start by finding a problem that is in the offline world and then take it online. You have to find something that is unique, a challenge in your community, and take it to the next level. One of the ways to validate that is you have to consider the ability for people to call you on the phone because you're available is really an advantage. I came in last night, but people were telling about the lingerie story. The lingerie, this is a great example. She's like, it's like reading my presentation. It's a really very local problem that is in the offline, and it's very, solvable online through this. So you have to focus on being relevant. Relevant means that you have something that is unique, that caters to a service that in a certain region that probably somebody else in another part, they don't care about that. People in Riyadh don't care about French cake, right? Nowhere else, but people in Amman, they do, because this is a place that they interact with. So you have to have that distinguish, whether it's from a service, from a customer service perspective, or from a content perspective. You have to have an advantage that is not content that is generic to all. So going offline, trust me, it's a lot of work. Like, we consider ourselves an online company, but a lot of what we're doing is actually offline. We have a lot of we have people in each city making sure that the city site is relevant to the community. There's a lot of offline work that needs to be done, but this is the challenge, right? The challenge is the opportunity. If it's hard, that means it's worth doing it, and it's worth investing in it, because the barriers of entry are that. You have to focus on being on the ground. When we started doing this, I remembered one of the things Jeeran started back in 2000. We was hosting, believe it or not. We did hosting. That was even before GoDaddy. So I was looking, how do we market ourselves as a company for hosting when there's all these big, all these big hosting companies. And one person online was saying, advertise in the community places, advertise at schools, advertise at classifieds. So this is really going local and finding your customers in the offline world. Many times we think of online as it has to exist online, but no, offline is your relevance, offline is your strength, offline is where you know, and some engineer in Silicon Valley can't just compete and write things and write code that will compete with you. This is why you see a lot of, we have like, 7 Groupon clones in the region. Why? Because it's very offline. Like the group buying sites, I don't think of them as online companies. I think of them as sites that have an online storefront, but they're very much offline intensive. And 7 people jumped on this in the region because it is really an advantage for them as opposed to doing that. The execution is the biggest challenge, because there's a lot of offline and online work. But this is where you shine if you truly deserve to shine. If you can nail the execution, then everything else should be easy for you to do. This is just a brief. I'll be happy to answer more questions about the offline model. I hope I've been able to convince some of you so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Omar. Just before we go into the question and answer period, just to get an idea of the type of crowd we have here, so we can get an idea of the type of questions that we can lead. How many people here are either aspiring entrepreneurs or people that work in the online field that's similar to what we're talking about here? Okay, so it's the majority of the crowd. Okay, so I'll just kick off the question. I'll kick off the question and answer period with the first question, and then we'll open the floor for everybody else. So both JC and Omar, you both talked about relevance as being a very important aspect. The example of the person in Amman who was, to him it was very relevant to have good reviews and even the right phone number. JC as well, you were talking about how a lot of the people actually have a specific need to buy or sell something. How do you zero in on what is relevant to the region and what is more relevant in the Middle East compared to, let's say, somewhere else in the United States or Europe? I don't know, it's probably a general question, but how did you, for example, Omar, how did you zero in on the idea that you want to go towards, let's say, the reviews?
I think the answer starts with solving a problem that you face. This is how you know it's relevant. When you're building something that helps you figure out something, solve a problem for you, and you would use your own site. This is the start, right? It's relevant. If it's relevant to you, then you must be doing something good. So I think that's the easiest thing to do is if it's you can use it and you can convince other people to use it. If you can convince your mom to use it, then hey, then you're really onto something. I think this is relevance, and I think it applies to local classifieds. I've been a user of Dubizzle, check it every now and have a try. But this is really relevant. This is really solving a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wouldn't look at it as what's relevant in the Middle East versus what's relevant elsewhere in the world. And I think that communities tend to be a lot smaller than that. What's relevant in Amman, as we were talking about, may not necessarily be relevant in Riyadh. But for the most part, if you have content and there's demand for that content, then it's original content. It's probably community content of some sort. Community can be defined in so many different ways. Both Omar and I are really looking at it from a geographic standpoint. That's what we're doing with local community content, local. But yeah, I mean, every different community can be defined in many different ways. When it comes to classifieds, yeah, it's relevant in that geography. And so for us, that's pretty simple. We always say that classifieds is a basic human need. Trade has happened since before history. It's always happened. And our goal is, classified isn't something new. Our goal is just to facilitate that trade better than what we just did before. And that's relevant.
Okay. So I don't know if we have a microphone for people asking questions.
I don't need a microphone. I can manage.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Presentation. I have a question that is split in half if you want. For Omar, your key factor here is attracting the reviewers, right? If you have reviewers, you have people going to a place and posting a review, that gets things moving. I want you to tell us about your strategy of creating content, and especially because Arabs don't seem to be very active in creating content. It's not as active as they should be. And JC, tell me more about the Arabic Buddhism and how things are going there. Because Dubai is a very metropolitan market. Everybody in Dubai wants to buy something online. They land in Dubai, they buy stuff through the internet. The question is, what's going to happen when Dubizzle goes to local markets where people are not that metropolitan? So that's my question. Sorry for the question. Who would like to start?
Sure, I'll start. That's a great question. One of the challenges we have is educating people how to write good reviews. In our region, people don't like to read, let alone write useful information. So we find a lot of reviews that say in Arabic, هذا المحل كتير حلو. This is not a review. Or somebody that says, oh, somebody told me this place is good. This is not a review either. So this is part of our challenge, and invoking some of the things that say, we look at gamification as a means to help us to reward good reviewers on the site. We haven't released a lot of these things yet, but is to users educate each other about what is a good review.
You need a culture shift?
Yeah, it does. It does. We do look at it as part of.
Can you wait for culture shift?
No, we have to work on it. We can't wait. We can't wait. We have to reward people the right way, to encourage them to highlight the good reviewers, highlight the good reviews, reward them in a way, and create role models on a local community level.
Okay, so yeah, Arabic, Dubizzle in Arabic. How's it? How active is it? And, well, firstly, all of our content is in all 3 languages, so that helps. We don't split the market depending on what language you speak. It's all transit. But we're seeing outside of the UAE, fair enough, is predominantly English. When they use the web, it's predominantly English. But in other places, certainly Saudi Arabia and Egypt, we're used more in Arabic than we are in English. In terms of getting, I guess your question was kind of...
Is there an online classified culture in Arabic also?
Yeah,
like the Arabic culture.
There is, and exactly what Omar was talking about. Oftentimes not just getting the content, but getting the content to the quality that it should be. For people to really add the information that they need to add, but that's a bit of a challenge. But that comes with time, and I think that there's a big generational gap. We've all seen the studies that the internet users in the Middle East are some of the most impassioned and interactive users in the world. But this is very much the youth, So, and certainly when we go out to these new markets, a lot of the people that we're talking to first are a little bit older than the ones with more content. And so it takes a little bit of, a little bit more convincing about the internet as a tool, and a little bit more education. But I think that it will switch very rapidly as every year this youth generation is creeping 1 year older and doing more things and doing different things on the web. So I think that that's a problem that will very, very, very quickly solve itself. And as a side note, just talking about what's happening in the region right now, particularly after what's happened in Egypt. Yeah, and what's happened in Egypt, in just a matter of months, kind of the reaction and the attitude that people have towards the web, and the older generation have towards the web has just gone 180 degrees. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible how quickly that has shifted. But that's big, and that's a big shift that I think is changed, and it's not going to change that. And that's a good thing.
I think we had 3 questions that came up. Let's start with the gentleman here, and then we'll move.
My question to JC regarding the chicken or egg problem. You say you use brute force. How do you convince someone to add some page where there's almost zero traffic? How do you do this?
Well, it's really a question of trust, because if the motivation is there, and so in the example of classifieds, you have a car that you want to sell, for example. Dubizzle is a means by which you can sell it. So the motivation is there. Why wouldn't you put it on there as well? Because you don't trust that it's worth your time, or you don't trust that it's actually going to work for you. Or it's really a question of trust. And the only way, or the surefire way of overcoming that issue is to literally sit with someone and speak to them, shake their hand, and talk to them face to face, and explain to them what it is that you do and why. And it doesn't work every time. We have, as I said, we have people on the ground in each market. Everyone has had an experience where they've gone and they've talked to somebody for an hour, and they're like, well, I don't believe it's free, or thank you for your time, but I'm not going to do it. So it doesn't work every time. You have to have that hard work and persistence, because it will work eventually. But it's an issue of trust, and that's really how you have to look at it and how you have to respond.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So the question is, what is the revenue model, especially for Jeeran? And the other part is how do you monitor the content submitted by the users? Do you use certain tools like look for keywords, or you need to make sure that it's not offensive to, or it's out of the subject or stuff like that?
Yes, our current revenue model is banner advertising. As I mentioned, the new model, the local model, is going to allow us to have several other revenue products such as text ads, premium services, education. There's several opportunities, and it's always good to have a different kind of revenue other than just online advertising because it's cyclical. In terms of content and the monitoring, yes, for sure. And it's not just like a discussion board monitoring, because we have to monitor if the review is useful and if the review fits the criteria of what the review is. Because many times it's tricky, and this is what defines review sites. Usually it's the reputation. For example, we've opened a place, we've added a place that overnight had like 5 out of 5 reviews, and it's the guy or the girl and their cousin just going and writing positive reviews. So it's tricky, and we do monitor every single review, not in a reactive manner. It's published online. Then we actually monitor it. One of the things to experiment, we're going to experiment with, is actually not letting it go online. Part of the gamification is saying you can only, once you develop a certain reputation on the site, then your review is going to go online. But before that, we have to, you submit your review, and then once we approve it, you go online. We're going to experiment with these things.
Do you monitor it manually, or you have scripts that?
No, manually.
So you read everything?
Yeah, because it's not like discussion boards where we're looking for bad keywords. We're looking for segment, the style of writing. We're looking for if somebody is too positive or too negative. We're looking for see if something is not real. And this you cannot, as far as I know, do it by script.
Well, we don't have a lot of people that place ads that then criticize Dubizzle, but we did, we have discussion forums in the UAE.
Or people like claiming false things on the ad, like
Oh, okay.
How would you deal with that?
Well, people claiming false things. I mean, when it comes to like spam, and I'm not sure if your question was about spam and scams, fraud and stuff like that, or if it's more about.
No, actually, I'm talking about direct criticism to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
and I have witnessed the cases. I would say, especially when we are involved in the e-commerce situation, that the site administrators remove some of the text, or they do not put it in there, or after it is placed, they remove it, like in the case of the reviewers. I don't know if it's going on or it's happening at your sites. Frankly, I haven't that much experience with your sites, but I have seen it with some other sites. This is unethical. This would actually fire back negatively at the population. The popularity of the website itself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we actually used to have a discussion that we started on our site to get feedback, and then the title of the discussion was "Why Dubizzle Sucks," and it was to try and get people to just basically bash us on our own website, and then we could deal with it, and then find out who they were and delete them. Just so we get feedback and find out what people's frustrations were with it. So I think that as long as you're responding to it, and if it's somehow out of your control, that you at least explain that to whatever degree you can, then that's the best approach to it. So I hope that answers your question.
I would add to that, the most important thing is transparency. It's just telling how you delete, how you block, how you add, how you remove, how do you define good and how do you define bad. As long as you're never going to get it right 100% of the time, but as long as your guidebook is clear to people and they can get a sense of why you're deleting something, I think users will give you, and businesses will give you some room of leverage. For us, if somebody is coming and saying really bad things about the business, yes, if they're true, and this is is what we have to do, is to really investigate it, is to say, yes, it's true, we have to keep them. We're going to lose everything we're about as a review site if we start modifying things, just to win one listing. And then it's the job of Jeeran as well, is to educate this business owners, like, okay, now somebody said something bad, but now is the opportunity for you to deal with it and showcase in the community that you're proactive and you care and you tried your best.
Okay, my question is about content in general. When you have targeted content but in different languages, do you just translate, or do you change the way you address your target audience depending on the language that they use?
That's a good question. So are you talking about the user experience?
Well, yeah, not only the content on the website, in your social networks as well, is how you interact with your audience. Does it change depending on the language that they're using to interact? Like how you say something.
Well, okay, so
Turn a phrase.
in terms of firstly, we don't write our own content so much, but I guess in the social media world we do. Though we don't separate based on language. We kind of like in social media we talk in all languages and we send the same messages. I think in terms of like user interface and things like that, there is definitely a difference. And we've learned that. We continue to learn that. We recently last week launched a new Arabic homepage just to address some of the concerns and feedback we were getting about how our Arabic homepage could be better. It's not simply just basically translating and flipping direction. It's more than that. But yeah, with regards to content, I mean, if you place an ad in Arabic on Dubizzle, it then gets translated to English, it gets translated to French as well. And that was like a very particular problem because there's hundreds of thousands of ads on Dubizzle, so we can't manually translate every single one. And the automatic translation tools are pretty crappy, for lack of a worse word. So what we've done is basically created lots of kind of predefined fields and pre-translated fields so people can give as much information without adding in free text as possible, so that translation works. But we still have to fall back for certain things on kind of translation tools. But just as long as people know that that's what we're using, and they can toggle back between the different languages and such as that. So it's imperfect, but I think that's okay as long as you're aware of it and you're constantly trying to make it better.
Just as a follow-up, now you have Jeeran in different cities. Do you change the words into the dialects, different dialects, like instead of or stuff like that?
We haven't done dialects yet. But this is a very good question. It's something that we're experimenting with. We did a different approach than Dubizzle. We said, because I think our products are different, we said we're going to only have one language in each city, and we're going to target the majority. So it's in Riyadh, Amman, it's Arabic. In Dubai, it's going to be English once we launch the Dubai site. For us, it's different because auto-translation sucks really, especially if you're doing something like reviews, then the whole thing can flip. The reason we did that is we can't offer bilingual interfaces, because when you have bilingual interfaces, people are going to write two languages. Like I'm more comfortable writing in English, but I don't want to do that because it's really bad. For example, when you're looking at a place, you're evaluating whether you should engage with this business or not, and then 3 of them are in Arabic and they give a really good review, but the one in English gives a bad review and you can't read it. So it just destroys the whole point. So we decided that the interface is one language, and we actually delete, meaning that we delete it, we take it offline, and we ask the reviewer to rewrite it in Arabic for the Arabic interfaces.
Hi, I have a question. It's regarding content. So, for example, let's take Relevance. they are having many challenges regarding the content related to prostitution and illegal trading of items. At which point, or would you consider intervening and taking this out? Let's say, for example, in Dubai, it's illegal to buy alcohol unless you have a license. Say someone is selling a vintage bottle of whiskey. Would you intervene to take this out, and how much of control you have on this?
Definitely, we don't allow anything that's illegal to be posted, and we would definitely intervene. Yeah, I think that's very important. We wouldn't change someone's content and change the words that they said. We would simply take it down. But I think content control and especially fighting things such as spam and fraud and things that are illegal is really becomes a big part of the business. If you're a user-generated content business, in the beginning that's a very small part of your business, but as you grow, that becomes a very, very large part of your business. And certainly a lot of our technology is geared towards that, geared towards finding those, finding anything bad out immediately. And not only that, but a lot of human interaction as well. So we're constantly developing that, both technology-wise and systems to make our manual human filters better and more accurate and that sort of thing. But I think that it's important to have kind of a very, very clear definition of, and Omar touched on this earlier.
A lot of interesting questions about where you draw the line on controlling content on your website, which is a very relevant topic.
Yeah, actually I wanted to add something to what JC was saying about controlling it is crowdsource it. Let your users help you define what's bad content or not. So it's like through a simple flagging system. Do you guys do that? So the support team in the morning, the first thing they would look at, instead of just starting anywhere, is looking at what's the content that got flagged the most. Then this is something that most likely will get their first attention.
So we'll take one more question.
Hello, my name is Jordan from Bright Texas. My question to Omar, do you still do web hosting? There's the next question.
No, we stopped doing selling web hosting. I think, do you remember when? 2004? 2004, 2000. Yeah, we stopped charging for it, but actually, because some of them were for friends and family, they remained till 2008 to 2009 when they had their domains hosted.
Yeah, my next question would be, why did you stop it? I mean, since you started before Rodad, as you mentioned, and why did you stop it?
Okay, that's a good question. Early on, when goes back to the first session when we started talking to VCs back in 2005. I don't know if the news of the room. Yeah, they started asking us to define your business. So we felt stupid defining our business. Oh, we're this online community and we do hosting. They're very separate things. And we decided to go with online community. Back then it was helping people build websites, because you're building more of an asset. Web hosting is a very cutthroat, low margin, volume business that you can't really differentiate yourself in. So we opted for the online community approach, where you can build a brand and you can build users and you can build a database. So we actually, we knew it was really not something we're not going to get into, but we shut it down when we were fundraising, because we wanted to have a better Jeeran for VCs to consider.
I think we're out of time, but there's so many questions coming up. So we'll just give the gentleman here a chance to ask a question.
The question for you, Paul. What were your techniques which you used then to spread in MENA region, and what are the new ones? Your techniques when you spread to MENA region.
Okay. Well, when Dubizzle first started, which was 6 years ago, we were really just spreading in one community, and that was Dubai. And it was a pretty different landscape than it is today in terms of the web. Social media wasn't nearly as prevalent as it was. Facebook was just starting back then. There was no Twitter. So I think that there was, we use the same, I guess, tools, but in a different way. You know, there's a lot of offline, as Omar said, a lot of face-to-face, a lot of on the ground, talking to people. It's actually amazing what one person can have. You know, one person going out and meeting and talking to one person at a time can make so much bigger of an effect than you actually think. You know, when you think about advertising, you think about, you know, obviously digital advertising and billboards and stuff like that, but actually just the human element can really be huge. So that is a really, really big part of it. You know, but of course, social media, back then social media was more discussion forums and blogs and things such as that. Nowadays, social media is social networks and things such as that. And that's very, very big as well. But you know, it was really great to hear Omar talk about offline, how important offline is when building your online kind of local community. Today, our offline team, which comprises we actually have an offline marketing team. They're called the offline marketing team, and that composes all of our marketing managers of the different markets, and then it also composes the people on the ground of the different markets. That's the largest department in our entire company. That department didn't actually exist aside from Sim and I, you know, really a year ago. But now it's you know, now that we're expanding throughout the MENA region, the largest department. You know, we're a company of about 60 people. The largest department in our company, in our online company, is offline marketing. So that that is really key.
It's interesting. It's like the tip of the iceberg is what you see is what's online, but there's a lot of work that goes behind the screen. Okay, go ahead.
What about the advertising online? Well,
yeah, that's.
Which one is better for your website?
Well, they're different, and of course, you know, our business model is online advertising, so no, I'm never saying anything about that. No, I mean, look, the offline is about content building and community involvement. Online is about generating traffic. You can't have one without the other. They're equally as important as one another, but they're two completely separate things. You know, so for us, we also have an online team to complement our offline team, so you have to match the content with the traffic. You know, people, as I said, there's a demand for this traffic. There's a demand for this content. So as you build the content, you have to let the people that are demanding the content know that it's there, and then you do that through online. So I mean, Dubizzle would not be successful without online. It wouldn't be successful without offline. But both are absolutely necessary.
I agree. Rashma, you had a question? Rashma?
Oh yeah. I was interested. I mean, in the UK, we talk about small medium businesses. Only about 40% are online, and you know, Omar, you mentioned like I was wondering what the statistic was for SMEs that have their own website presence, and the other one was, do you see that these guys are going to get their own websites, or do you really see them continuing to have a presence on Jeeran? So.
I don't have the exact statistic, but I'd be surprised if the number of SMEs that have in the region is anything to be above 10%. Yeah, it's a guess. It's a guess. But yeah, this is our challenge. I think for any business owner, they're listing on a place on a site where people are talking about it. It's much more important on your static on your own site where you have this nice flash intro that shows things. I think it's to say the least, it's as important as the existing site of the company.
Okay, thank you very much.